one for them, that they're the love of his life, and that he's meant to protect them.
Right.
Okay. Hey guys, so today our sponsor for our podcast is Alani New. Cheers.
Okay, so today I think that we should definitely talk about Great Gatsby and kind of how the main character Gatsby is actually like kind of crazy.
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely been on my mind since I read the book.
Yeah, I was reading the book last week, right? And I started the story and I really liked it, and like I was excited to see how it ends. But then I started to realize that like the more and more I read it, Gatsby is like kind of a psycho. Like,
yeah, I kind of found it funny how like he knew Daisy for only like a few months before he kind of became obsessed with her for like the next 5 years, even through the war and everything.
No, literally. And like literally he did so many things just to get Daisy to notice him and get her attention.
Like when he bought his mansion right across the water from her house so that he could basically watch her and like be close to her.
Like Nick, like he literally walked past the dock and saw Gatsby reaching out to the light at Daisy's dock in the middle of the night, yearning for her. Like,
yeah, normal people don't really do that. So
yeah, and him throwing parties every single weekend, waiting for her to show up. And it might seem like it was just like, you know, parties, like him throwing parties because he's rich, but no, he made it an open invite because he wanted her to walk through that door one of those days.
I think he was trying to be subtle with it so that she would show up, but that didn't really work. So he asked Nick, his neighbor, who was conveniently Daisy's cousin, to invite her over for tea so that he could just quote unquote pop in one day, which is not very subtle at all.
Yeah. And like this kind of reminds me of like the show You on Netflix that I was watching. And the main character, Joe, is like actually kind of a lot like Gatsby, but a little more crazier, obviously. But he kind of believes that like every single girl that he meets, he's like the perfect guy for her, and she's the perfect girl for him, and he has to protect them, and you know. And I feel like that's kind of how Gatsby feels about Daisy, you know.
Yeah, it reminds me of like in Gatsby when Gatsby tells Daisy to tell Tom that she never loved him, and like he's the only one for her. It's kind of like when Joe kind of becomes like obsessed with the girls that he meets and believes that
there was actually a part of the book where Gatsby and Daisy were driving back from the hotel, right? And Daisy was driving and she literally hits Myrtle with a car, kills her, and Gatsby takes the blame for killing Myrtle, and he thinks that he's protecting her, but really he's kind of just signing his own death sentence. But she literally doesn't even want him.
Yeah, she doesn't really love him the way that he loves her, and he never really understands that. He'll never really understand that.
Yeah, that's the sad part.
But okay, what was that movie that you were telling me about that it was kind of like reminded me of Gatsby?
Oh yes, Fear. It's actually a really good movie, and it's about like this girl. She meets this guy. She thinks he's perfect for her. He does all the right things, but then the more and more she gets to know him, the more and more she realizes he's crazy. He's obsessed with her, and then she just didn't want anything to do with him anymore because, you know, literally a psycho. Like,
It all could have been different, Mr. Walker. You should have allowed nature to take its course. And it will anyway. So let me the fucking out!
Yeah, it reminds me of like when Gatsby's constantly like trying to get Daisy to leave her husband, like to leave Tom, and she slowly just kind of doesn't want to do that anymore. She realizes it's not really worth it to leave her husband.
Yeah, that's kind of like embarrassing for him because like everyone in the room can see like she doesn't want him anymore, but he doesn't even realize it.
What do you think what made him want her so badly?
Maybe because he's crazy? Like,
Or maybe because like he wanted to be rich so badly, he aspired to be wealthy so badly that when he like met Daisy, who was like rich and wealthy, and that he like saw that as his opportunity to get rich, and he wanted to be like her and her family.
yeah.
But he ended up really kind of just falling in love with her instead and didn't really
Yeah.
work out.
Like, she definitely, I feel, motivated him to like get rich and to have the life that he wanted, a wealthy life, because he was obsessed with being rich, but he was obsessed with Daisy. And so it kind of just made him fall in love with her faster, you know what I mean?
It kind of sounds like that mental disorder, erotomania,
Yeah.
which means like you obsess over people, and that's basically what Gatsby was doing the whole time.
Yeah. And definitely depression from the war, because I feel like, you know, war changes people, and he was probably like lonely, and like that probably made him obsess over his life before the war and like his time with Daisy, which probably made him fall in love with her.
Yeah. You know another thing that he did that was like absolutely absurd?
What?
When he would like make that like multiple scrapbooks of newspaper clippings about her.
No.
And like one of them was actually like her getting married. Like you think that he would take that as a hint that it probably was not going to happen, but he did not take that hint.
Yeah, no. And honestly, I don't blame Daisy for not wanting a life with Gatsby, because like honestly, I feel like he started off loving her and he had a really good love for her, but the more and more he like spent time with her, the more and more it became like an obsession, like an aggressive obsession that would have ruined them both.
Yeah, and I think that when she started to like find out things about him, like the fact that he was a criminal and a bootlegger and like all these secrets that he had, the more she kind of like didn't want him. But I think that maybe if she had never really found some of those things out, she maybe would have ran away with him. But she also kind of had a whole kid at home that she was just gonna leave. So I don't know.
Yeah, it was never gonna work.
Yeah, I don't think so.